This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
We end today's show with news that the Obama administration is backing calls for a court-appointed monitor to oversee New York City's controversial stop and frisk policing program. The move came in the form of a brief filed by the Justice Department right before a midnight deadline in a civil rights lawsuit challenging stop and frisk. The Department of Justice did not say whether it agrees with plaintiffs that the policy unconstitutionally targets people of color, but it endorsed the appointment of a monitor in the event that the court finds stop and frisk unlawful.
Nearly 90% of people stopped by police in 2011 were black and Latino. 9 out of 10 were neither arrested nor ticketed. A judge is set to rule in the coming months on whether such practices systematically violated the rights of New Yorkers, as the plaintiffs allege. In its statement, the DOJ wrote, quote, "A court-appointed monitor in this case would help the court ensure that if any pattern or practice is found to exist, it's effectively and sustainably remedied." Well, for more on this development, we're joined by Sunita Patel, staff attorney with the Center for Constitutional Rights, co-counsel on the Stop and Frisk federal class action lawsuit. Welcome back to Democracy Now!, Sunita. Explain the significance of what happened just before midnight last night.
Well, the Department of Justice is tasked with ensuring that police departments around the country are following the Constitution. They have weighed in heavily and said that it is common practice, and this court should follow the common practice of appointing a court monitor to independently oversee any order that she institutes. This is significant. We need accountability within the police department. We need to ensure that changes are actually made and that the community has a voice in those changes and is aware of what is actually happening.
Well, you know, the mayor and the police commissioner apparently were very upset when they heard that this was coming down. But it's not unusual for the Justice Department. It's done it around the country in many constitutional issues with civil rights violations among police departments. Your sense of the importance of this in New York City?
Well, you know, we're talking about the largest police department with a very significant problem. And here, there isn't an internal system of accountability. There isn't an external system of accountability. And the Justice Department is basically saying that the police cannot be trusted to police themselves. There is no systemic way of ensuring that change is going to happen. And the court needs to have an independent eyes and ears within the department.
I want to read from the end of the Department of Justice's brief. They say, quote, "It's not realistic to ask the public electorate to monitor the police department to ensure that the department's stop and frisk practices are consistent with the Constitution. The public does not have the time, resources, or access necessary to properly monitor a police department." Sunita Patel, your response.
Yeah, well, and this is in response to their contention that City Hall or that other agencies actually have some monitoring force. And it's just ridiculous. It's preposterous to say that. And then at the same time to say, trust us, we can police ourselves. We can actually ensure that whatever the court wants to be done will be done. They've had 14 years to fix it, and they've decided not to do that in that time.
And when do you expect a decision from the judge in this case?
You know, we have indications that this should be coming down in the upcoming months.
And the significance of what has been heard in this case?
It is extremely significant. We've heard from all 5 boroughs, police themselves saying that there's a problem, community members representing millions of people who've been stopped and frisked illegally, and mountains of evidence showing that there's a widespread systemic constitutional violations and violations based on race. There's racial profiling going on here.
The numbers of people who are stopped and frisked?
4.3 million in the last 10 years. We know that this number has only increased, and there's been a slight dip recently because the police department has decided to train its officers not to document every encounter.
How long do consent decrees last for?
Typically, you know, 5 to 10 years.
And in terms of, there has been a dip, but it's been largely as a result of all the publicity and the attention and the actual revelations as the court case proceeded, hasn't it?
That's right. You know, I think that they know that they're under scrutiny, and they want to show that what they say is we're slowly moving a big ship. Well, you know, it's been 14 years in the making, and they haven't moved it fast enough. And the court, I think, really has hopefully lost patience with what they're saying they can do on their own.
In 1 year recently, the number number of stops and frisks was in the range of 600,000 to 700,000?
That's right, and that is an astronomical number. And we're talking about some people who have said that they've been stopped and frisked themselves upwards of 10, 20 times. It becomes a routine course. It becomes a part of daily life, and that's not the way New Yorkers should live.
We want to thank you, Sunita Patel, for being with us from the Center for Constitutional Rights, co-counsel in the Stop and Frisk Federal.